We're spending more time on our devices than ever before, and the better they get, the more time we're inevitably glued to them. The problem with this is that we often have much more important things that deserve our attention and our time, which is something that we only have a finite amount of in our lifetimes. So as someone who wants to become a more productive and happier person, I realised that the time that I unintentionally and subconsciously waste on my phone is a problem, and something that I probably need to take way more seriously. This video is brought to you by the Ridge wallet. This wallet comes with a lifetime warranty and is a great minimalist, compact, non-leather alternative for bulky traditional wallets. Get 10% off today with free worldwide shipping and returns by going to ridge.com/Daniel using the link in the description. The convenience of having everything that you need in your pocket is incredible. However, this convenience comes with a price. A recent documentary called The Social Dilemma, which I'd highly recommend if you haven't watched it already, highlighted this problem perfectly. The one line that stood out was from a guy called Justin Rosenstein, who said, "I've uninstalled a ton of apps from my phone that I felt were wasting my time. All the social media apps, all the news apps, and I've turned off notifications on anything that was vibrating my leg with information that wasn't timely and important to me right now. It's for the same reason that I don't keep cookies in my pocket." Cookies in your pocket. Even though he's talking about social media, that one analogy completely changed my perspective of this thing that I call my phone. Cookies, although they taste great, often make your day better and pack in an incredibly efficient amount of calories with each small bite. When they are consumed in large amounts, they become incredibly detrimental to our health, rather than being beneficial for our happiness and contentment in the short term. Cookies are much like social media and other content apps. They're fantastic for keeping in touch with old friends, expanding your network, staying informed and promoting your business. What's more, they often make us feel great, and all of these benefits are now accessible and primarily consumed directly from our pockets through these things that we call smartphones. But even with all of these so-called smart benefits, there may be a tremendous cost to this convenience. We know from studies that our brains develop priorities in large part due to the presence of a hormone called dopamine, which it expects to get from completing specific tasks. A normal example of this might be the great feeling that you get by crossing off things on your to-do list. In my case, I enjoy doing this so much that I'll even write down already completed tasks that didn't make it onto the list just to cross them off again. However, activities that release small amounts of dopamine, like to-do lists or side hustles, take a backseat when activities that release large amounts of dopamine enter into our lives. And it just so happens that things like drugs, alcohol, slot machines, sugar, and social media all share in being these high dopamine activities, which is why they can be so addictive. And this is the reason why hard work like our to-do lists and our jobs can feel all the more harder because of the presence and accessibility of these high dopamine activities, which are subconsciously prioritized above them. Tristan Harris in The Social Dilemma mentioned that if something is a tool, it genuinely is just sitting there, waiting patiently. If something is not a tool, it's demanding things from you. It's seducing you, it's manipulating you, and it wants things from you. We've moved away from a tools-based technology environment to an addiction and manipulation-used technology environment. Social media isn't a tool waiting to be used. It has its own goals, and it has its own means of pursuing them by using your psychology against you. So instead of our phones being the tools that make the hard work easier, in many circumstances they actually become the main source of hindrance to our progress. A question I've been asking myself recently was, when was the last time that I was bored? Like really bored. And I found that with the presence of my phone, this never really happens anymore. Anytime I'm uncomfortable or lonely or uncertain or afraid, I have a jar of cookies in my pocket, which act like a digital pacifier, atrophying any ability to deal with the very things that are the most difficult. As human beings, we're designed to be creative in response to the discomfort of boredom, but with the absence of boredom and solitude, I often wonder how many life-changing ideas have slipped my grasp due to this continual state of overstimulation, all because of my mobile device. Because of this, I decided to entirely delete social media off my phone a while back, and more recently, I even deleted the YouTube app, as it was eliciting the same dopamine-driven twitch. So here's what I found to be my current solution, and what my phone currently looks like, and why I've chosen to skip the upgrades to the iPhone 12. Ironically, a big factor in this decision was the iOS 14 upgrade that they brought to the iPhone, and from a digital minimalist's perspective, the app library is hands down the very best feature that they've included. Besides deleting overly distracting apps, I always have the odd app that I need but hate to see. However, I keep it because I maybe use it a few times a year and can't deal with the laborious setup each time I need it. So this new feature keeps all of my cluttered apps out of sight so they're not distracting, yet organised and easily searchable, much like a track in my music library, which forces me to be intentional about why I'm using them. This is where I keep apps for things like banking, bills, books and music, as well as less productive and perhaps unnecessary apps like stores and multiplayer games, which I enjoy keeping in order to have a virtual games night with our family outside of the UK on most weekends. This new feature has allowed me to completely declutter my home screen down to the apps which help with my productivity, which reminds me that my phone is a tool and helps promote its use as something that brings me closer to my goals rather than just being a distraction. Because of this, I have 5 apps that I keep on my home screen. The 4 apps I have at the bottom of my screen are for communication, so calls and texts on the left, then WhatsApp for international messaging with family, and then email for work-related messages. Calls and texts don't really need any explaining, as really these should be the primary uses for our phones and don't tend to interfere too much with our days, as they're usually just a means for people getting hold of you without the internet. WhatsApp is slightly different and can be quite distracting because of group chats. Because of this, I disable message notifications to all group chats, so I actively have to check them if there is anything there that might need my attention. This is useful, as if anything is urgent, people know that they can contact me by messaging me directly. Email is also another thing that can be a huge sink on our time. So I do the same thing and only try to check email at specific times of the day, only making exceptions if I'm in the middle of working on an important project that needs my attention, which is something that I talk about in my video on 3 rules for a productive life. The last app that basically has everything that I need for my work and videos is Notion. So now this is the only app that I have on my home screen. This is something I've started using quite recently, and I may make a video on how I use this another time. But if you'd like to find out more about how this app works, I'd highly recommend checking out Ali Abdaal and Thomas Frank, who both have made great videos showing how this can be such a powerful tool for productive workflows. This is the place where I keep all of my book notes, video ideas and references in one place, and it's easily accessible across all of my devices. So if I ever need to get work done on my phone while waiting for a haircut, or if I have an idea while I'm walking around outside of the house, I can quickly write it down and it will be on my workstation, filed and waiting for me when I get back to it. All of the other functions that I regularly use are easily accessible when I swipe up. So that's the camera, quick notes, alarms, timers, the flashlight, calculator, as well as various other settings. And the only other things that I need are the weather, Google searches, and directions, which I've created widgets for that I can easily get to when swiping left. As for my wallpaper, I wanted it to be something that was reminiscent of creativity and something that reminds me that my phone is a tool and not a pacifier. So as a designer, I just grabbed an image of some generic graph paper from Google and dropped it in there as my background. And I'd say that it does its job pretty well, as I think it looks kinda neat despite also being incredibly boring. By deleting certain apps and hiding away others, it means that I've created additional frustrations to checking them, a bit like placing cookies out of sight in a difficult to reach jar. This forces me to be intentional with their use and saves me from being manipulated into reaching for my phone when I don't need to, because these apps are out of sight and out of mind. With Techtober coming to a close, it's easy to be lured into the trap in thinking that upgrading our devices will somehow make life even better than it already is. But actually, I've come to the conclusion that in my case, upgrading my device may do the exact opposite. So I've decided to stick with my battered iPhone 7 Plus for the foreseeable future, as 1, I still have architectural student debt and a mortgage to pay, and 2, I've realised that my phone is best used as a tool, and it still works perfectly fine for everything that I need it to. But I mean, I'm not saying that I wouldn't take an iPhone 12 Pro Max if I was given one. Like, come on. IBIS in a smartphone? Anyway, I hope that this video was helpful in some way or other, or even comforting if you're someone like me who sometimes struggles conforming to the status quo. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this one, you may enjoy more of my videos on minimalism, productivity, and well-being over on my channel, so I'd love it if you subscribed, or even stuck around to check out some of the video suggestions at the end. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.